Alright, so today we're talking about If Trouble Was Money, a great blues track. This version by Gary Clark Jr., the original being by Albert Collins. This is an awesome song, key of C minor. Let's go ahead, we're gonna jump in and I'm gonna show you kind of how to take some different soloing approaches on it. We all know our classic minor pentatonic box, but we're gonna add a little bit more flavor today and kind of give it some of those really tasty things that really play inside the chord changes and make it sound great. All right, so if we want to really play over the chord changes, we got to understand what they are. So this is in fact a minor blues because we're starting on a minor chord. That is different from a dominant blues. A lot of people assume that all blueses are minor because a lot of times we choose the minor pentatonic scale to solo on them with. However, a lot of blueses use dominant seventh chords, right? So that's actually a major type of chord. So this song's kind of interesting because it's a minor blues with two dominant chords in it. So our one chord in this key, we got a C minor 7, and actually that C minor 7, I'm playing 8X, 888X, and one of the cool things about the riff that's going on kind of in the background is that they slide this little 888 that's on the D, G, and B strings, they just slide that up a whole step and get this super dope sound. That sounds really great. So that's 888 going up to 10, 10, 10. All right, there we go. The 4 chord would normally be a minor 7 chord. Ooh, but as you hear that, that doesn't really fit the song, right? So the 4 chord in C minor would typically be minor 7, but what they're using in this particular tune is an F dominant 7 chord. Now you could play that this way, X, 8, 7, 8, 6, or you could play it the classic A-shaped dominant 7 chord, that's X, 8, 10, 8, 10, 8. All these diagrams and shapes you can download below in my PDF. And if you wanted to, you could even add a little bit more flavor on that 4 chord. You could play a 9, and I hear them playing that quite a bit in this version. That's gonna be X, 8, 7, 8, 8. And I'm not playing the high E string, but you could play that 8th fret if you wanted to. All right, so let's quickly talk through the form of the song. So, like many blueses, we have a 12-bar form here, and we're in C minor, so we're gonna hang on that C minor 7 for 4 bars or 4 measures. Those little division signs mean just repeat the previous measure. And a lot of times in a minor style blues, you don't use a quick change, so that's something worth noting. Then we're going to go to that F7 chord, and again you could play an F9 if you wanted to. And then back to C minor 7 for 2 bars. And then we have the turnaround. And a lot of times in minor kind of blues tunes, you actually will have a flat 6 to 5 turnaround. But in this particular song, again, it's kind of unique. We have a G7 sharp 9 happening. That's the 5 chord going down to F7, which is our 4 chord. Back to the 1 chord for C minor 7 for 2 more bars. And that equates to our entire 12-bar form. All right, so our classic pentatonic box is going to be at the 8th fret here. And that's where many of us would start, and there is nothing wrong with that because there are great, great guitar players that make the most out of that. Now, the important thing is if you're a guitar player and you're feeling like you're kind of playing there but you sound stale, I would challenge you to play the 5 things that really make scales sound more like music. Those things are hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides, bends, and vibrato. There's nothing wrong with the scale, but there is something wrong with just playing the scale straight up and down. So that being said, we're not gonna talk into the classic box here at the 8th fret too much. Instead, I wanna tell you something cool that you can do on that F chord. Because our 4 chord, the F chord is a dominant 7th chord that's kind of evoking this really cool sound called Dorian. Now we could get a little deep into the modes, but I'm not gonna do that to you here. You don't need to know that necessarily for today. And so what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna hip you to this one cool note that you can hit when that F chord comes around. Okay, so in your minor pentatonic box there, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add the 10th fret of the B string. Now that note is gonna sound amazing. To some people it sounds really colorful and a bit dissonant. It depends on how much jazz you're into, but really, when that F chord is happening, it is a great note to hit. because it's inside the chord. It's literally one of the notes of the F7 chord. Now let me demonstrate that. Just playing the box. With a little blue note action. Here comes that F. Back to the box. Now we come to that 5 chord. Now the 5 chord, you could kind of mix a few different things. On my track, which you can download below, I actually opted for the Hendrix chord on the G7. So they're definitely playing a dominant 7th chord, G7. And I really like the sound of that kind of Hendrix G7 because it gives us a little bit of the flavor of the minor and the kind of dominant sound at the same time. So you can target the major third of that chord, which would be B, or you could just kind of stick with your pentatonic and play a B flat as well. All right, so I'm gonna play something now that really targets that turnaround of the G7 moving down to the F7. There's my minor pentatonic box. Up into box 2. I targeted that A. Ooh, another A. All right, so let's talk about that. So what I just did there was I took this nice little shape that kind of outlines like the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th of the turnaround. If we have a G7 chord, I'll just ignore this sharp 9 for now, and I'll just play the regular old G7. The root is gonna be G, the 3rd's gonna be B, the 5th is D, and our flatted 7th, because it's a dominant chord, is F. All right. Well, you can play a cool little fragment of that. You don't really need the root note. The bass player's playing it, like the chord players are playing it a lot of times. So I just play, that's 3, 5, flat 7, and you can play those notes as you want. That's for G7 there. And then I move it down just a whole step for the F chord. And I'm really playing the chord changes with just a simple little pattern. And then I just resolve that right back into the C minor pentatonic scale. I can't wrap up this lesson without sharing my favorite way to play the pentatonic scale on the guitar, and that is the diagonal form. Now, the neat thing about this is it breaks you out of the boxes. It was literally a massive game changer for the way that I play guitar and really made me just sound so much better. So in order to play a diagonal pentatonic in C minor, what we're gonna do is we're gonna play a 2-3 pattern. So what we're gonna do is look for a C on the low E string, since that's the easiest. We're gonna grab the C at the 8th fret here. And we're gonna grab it with our ring finger, and then we're gonna play what I call a bonus note below at the 6th fret. So those combine, that's 6, 8, and that's what I call a 2-note set. On the next string, it's gonna be followed by a 3-note set, and then we're just gonna repeat that pattern. 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. And it's awesome because it allows you to play a lot more melodically and kind of slide and hammer and pull off in between notes a lot easier. We could really play this diagonal pentatonic starting anywhere on the guitar neck. So let's say we just want to start it on, say, the A string, 3rd fret. That's a C. All right, so we'll add in that bonus note below. That's our 2-note pattern. On the next string, we got 3, then 2. Always got to watch out for the B string, and you got to shift up 1 fret for that one. That's a 3, and then 2. Now this 2-3 pattern of the diagonal will literally get you playing all across the guitar neck. Let's check it out in use. I hope you dug this lesson, and make sure to check out this video next if you want to immediately improve your guitar phrasing.